I really enjoyed the retreat you gave to the chaplains a few weeks ago,
Oh,
and
thank
especially liked the philosophical background that you were bringing to the discussion. And
you.
so,
Yeah,
I think it'd be really good to talk to you a little bit about evangelizing the modern world.
sure, sure.
Now, in Canada right now, most of the classmates are American. We're at Catholic Distance University in the States. Um, Abortion, euthanasia are pretty much everyday occurrences now, and it seems like a medical assisted assistance in dying is becoming more and more widespread. I mean, that's just two political things that are happening in Canada.
Hmm.
In terms of politics, in terms of evangelizing, in terms of the modern world, what are some of the things? What are some of the points that you could make to that discussion?
Yeah, so speaking to some other people as well too, it seems like we by the time it gets to becoming a law, we've already lost the culture war in some ways.
Mm.
And so I think it's a symptom of what's already been happening in the culture, particularly with euthanasia and abortion, particularly euthanasia. I think what's happening now is that people in our modern world have been identifying themselves as based and finding value in their life based on what they can do and their achievements.
Yeah,
And so now that scientific advancement has allowed them to, when they're not able to do those things, and that's one of the main reasons why people choose MAID or euthanasia is because they aren't able to do their same meaningful activities.
yeah.
Even speaking to the nurses, yeah,
We're in a school.
yeah, that's all good. Even the nurses, they say that most of these people aren't even suffering. They just,
Really?
oh, yeah, the nurses who are, some of the Catholic nurses who are kind of hearing things and things like that. So, um, yeah, so I think evangelization is definitely downstream, right? The law is kind of like the law and the effects of culture are over here, and then
Yeah.
evangelization kind of have to start down here with the individual person and really helping people now to really find their dignity and their value in the truest sense, in the right way. That's something I would say to that. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't place much nobility or dignity in being anymore. Yeah, it definitely is an achievement. Looks, fame, athletics. What can you do for me? There's not a lot of. We don't dignify people anymore. I noticed that when my child was born with Down syndrome, the medical staff were very quick to ask us if we wanted to feed him on demand. And when I said, "Well, you won't demand, right?" and they kind of looked at me, kept on looking at me until the penny dropped, and then they said, "Well, he's going to be a vegetable," and he's not. He's a really functioning member of our family, of his
Mm,
community. But well,
mm,
yeah, we've really denigrated and downplayed the essential nobility of people. You
mm.
seem to be getting a lot of your points from Charles Taylor, which I've done a little bit of reading on, and he just seems a very down to earth philosopher. As if we've lost some of that down to earth, common sense idea of what it means to be a member of society. Uh,
Mhm.
would you agree?
Yeah, I he's definitely in touch with the physical world. My Obviously Charles Taylor is a very big tome, right? So it's hard to read.
Yeah, yeah,
A person who does a great synopsis of it is James K. A. Smith, who's actually Protestant, and Charles Taylor is obviously Catholic, and so he really breaks it down very simply and with some kind of more cultural terms, although still very complicated.
yeah,
But he's basically tracing that 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 excarnation that has happened since the Protestant Reformation.
yeah.
Well, I just
From I
find,
think, therefore I am.
yes, yeah, yeah, just that separation of, and also too with the Protestant Reformation, just the rejection of sacraments is also the rejection of the idea that grace can go through the material world.
Yeah, yeah,
And so that's a very Catholic world view to see that this world is there's a transcendence to this world. There's a sacramentality in a general sense to the world. And so um, I think his common sense approach is in tune and harmonizes with the Catholic understanding with, and not just the Catholic understanding, but with reality. Because as human beings, we are ourselves sacramental in the sense of that the visible reveals the invisible in that way. And so I think just getting back to, and he's, the cool thing is that he's dialoguing with these modern philosophers and cultural movements, and I've just found him really interesting in trying to explain some of the cultural movements of our time as well.
Where do you think we need to intersect with society now to make a difference? You said evangelization is down the road.
Yeah. So I think for us as Catholics, there's culture on one end, and then there's us as Catholics. And I think we have to approach it in two ways. What I mean by that is that as Catholics, we've forgotten our identity. I think the basic beliefs of like the resurrection and believe that God's providence and our our love for the poor and our social justice. I would prefer to say social teaching of the church, because if you go back to the early church, that's how we transformed the world in 3 centuries, going from this tiny group of people to exploding to being the biggest population in that time. And so, and I just listened to how the early church transformed the world is by their own deepened sense of God's presence in their life, and also as well to allowing that to really transform their actions and really serving the poor, loving the poor, and that's what really converted so many people. And then too, in times of, for example, plague, them still serving people in that midst and witnessing to the power of the resurrection.
Yeah, yeah,
That did pass. Some of them survived too, right? But some of them who did pass were in a way martyrs of love. And so I think we gotta get back to who we are. Like if we really believe who we are, then we gotta live in that way. And so simply by being who we are, that's how we evangelize. And then secondarily, intentionally evangelizing to the culture. One of the I bring philosophy up in a lot of my talks because I'm starting to realize now how important these thinkers are influencing our world right now.
hmm
And it's such a we need to understand the issues that are happening at times so that we can name it, so that we can give the antidote to it. And so one of the things before, it was like the new atheism and things like that and scientism, but now it's the woke ideology. And so being aware of those cultural movements, those philosophical movements, uh, and it's not just enough to be who we are. I think in this particular case, in our culture right now, okay, this is the woke ideology. How do we respond to their points?
yeah. And how do we respond out of love and real care, uh, despite the fact that we're probably going to be thrown under the bus for it? Like
Mm-hmm.
woke ideology is attractive because it's if I think, therefore I am. So whatever I think I am. And if you say I'm not, then you're denying my ability to describe myself as a human being. But we
Mm-hmm.
say sacramentality, your body, your being, is much deeper than that, and has real meaning. And like you say, society has forgotten that meaning. The meaning of the body will become disassociated from the body, from the sacrament. I've been discussing online with some of the my other student friends, colleagues, and we keep getting back to some of the original saints. The saints that went to the Vikings, to the Saxons, to the Celts, uh, Korea, Japan, Uganda, wherever. These were very brave people, but they suffered too. Maybe we need to be a little more. I don't know. Is there a role for suffering in what you're saying we need to do?
I think suffering goes hand in hand with courage, and I think this is part of going back to our roots. I think Catholicism, like those saints, calls us to courage. And our trust in God's providence, a belief in the resurrection, the power of God's love, like that gives us the ability to be courageous, regardless of how people see us or whether they want to throw us under the bus, because they can't hide the light forever. And we just have the courage. We just have the courage to hold on to the light, even if the darkness can seem to overshadow it, but not completely blot it out. The light will always win. And so, courage gives us the ability to act out of love, and that's part of the evangelization part. Is like we're doing this because our world is lost and confused. And so then the courage is born out of love for other people. And then as a result of that, if we suffer, it's 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 because we care about people. We're suffering because people don't understand us. They're mistreating us. They're rejecting Catholicism in general, all these different things. But we just continue on forward because the suffering shouldn't deter us because it's like, no, we expected this actually. Jesus told us this a long time ago. Don't be surprised if you're a Christian and if they hated me, they're gonna hate you too. So we should in
Yeah.
some ways expect that.
Yeah. When he says pick up your cross, well, I didn't expect it to be heavy.
Yeah, yeah, right. Like,
Well,
oh,
yeah, it is
there,
heavy. Yeah.
there's splinters on this cross. Like this hurts a little.
So, the new evangelization, what does that mean and how do we incorporate that?
Yeah, so the old evangelization was reaching out to the unbaptized, uncatechized. And so the new evangelization now, which is coined termed by I think more Pope John Paul II, maybe Pope Paul VI, I can't remember, but definitely popularized by Pope John Paul II. I think it was more Pope John Paul II. And it's now we're in a world now where many people now are baptized or have a familiarity with Catholicism, but now we're we don't have to go to distant lands to evangelize. We're evangelizing to the people right here,
Yeah.
the who are baptized but don't know anything about their faith, have never encountered Jesus. We've sacramentalized a lot of people without evangelizing them. So
Yeah.
that's the new evangelization is like, okay, these are the people who are baptized, but and it's a little bit harder because they think they know what about the Catholic faith, but in fact they
Hmm.
don't at all. And so it's a new approach and then that's where the new ardor and new methods kind of comes in where okay, how are we trying to reach these people who are already baptized? And I think one of the things I like to appeal to is, and this is kind of a theology of the body, Christopher West principle, where we appeal to the basic desires of the human heart. Basics not in the sense of like
Base.
crude,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, base, but in the universal longings of the human person for happiness, love, beauty, truth, goodness, and and appealing to that, I think.
Hmm. Does new technologies help or
I
is it
think
a
it,
hindrance?
I think there's some great examples of it helping with, for example, Bishop Robert Barron, Father Mike Schmitz. Like Father Mike
Oh, yeah.
Schmitz is doing incredible work with Catechism of the Year and Bible of the Year,
Yeah. Yeah.
reaching millions of people who are not otherwise would have known it, right? He was on New York Times Square advertising. Like that's amazing, right? There's the Bishop Robert Barron with his kind of talking with other influential thinkers in the secular world, going to Google and Facebook.
Hmm.
And then there's the app Hallow, which is really
Yeah.
transforming a lot of people too. So I think there's a lot of good things to that, but I think that should not be our. There's a lot of resources I can give people now, but I don't think that should be our maybe primary step, our first foot forward. I think the first foot forward, we have to go back to the basics of face to face, person to person. Hey, man, Jesus loves you, and that incarnate right. So we or else we that incarnational aspect of evangelization, or else if we focus too much on the online, it can become excarnational and
Yeah.
no realizing that people your community is a very important aspect of evangelization too, and you can only do that really, I'd say, face to face.
So what's the role of the laity versus or in in communion with the clerics, with the ordained ministers?
Yeah, I think it's the laity are more critical now than ever. I can't be everywhere. I'm only one
Yeah.
person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know the people you know. I don't go to the barber shops and sports games and whatever, right, that you go to. And so laity are called to, in their circumstances, to be the light of the world. And so the role of the laity is to, and the role of the clergy are work hand in hand. The role of the clergy is to assist the laity to be evangelists, but to be missionary disciples first, right? To be disciples first, and then to be missionaries, right?
Mhm.
And it's constant feeding of one another. And so we're, as clergy, we're called to feed the laity with the sacraments, but also to feed them with through catechism and through knowledge and through scripture and all those things like that, so that they have the tools and the confidence to be able to go out. I think that's the evangelization is the role of primarily the laity.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, yeah, I believe our job is to go out to the world, and there are priests and religious to feed us, to make us fit for purpose.
Mhm.
We come to church to be fed, to be healed, to be given strength, and sent out once more at the end of Mass. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Vitae, Missa est, right?
yeah,
Go,
yeah.
be
Go.
sent.
Oh, and stay for coffee.
Yeah, don't go right away. Yeah, go
Yeah,
stay for a little bit of community.
yeah, little community.
Metaphorically.
Do you get a sense sometimes? I don't. This is not on the topic, but do you get the sense sometimes that the laity are trying to be, when they want to get involved, they want to get involved in clerical roles rather than out in the street roles? We want to do it at the parish. It's nice at the parish. I'll do the candles. I'll do the.
Mhm. It's comfortable in the parish. I think that's one aspect as well too. It's familiar, but I think it's also the clericalism of evangelization, or of this just the of the laity as well too. We don't understand our our identity. This goes back to our roots. What why does the church exist?
Hmm,
Pope Paul VI says the church exists to evangelize. But what has happened is that the church has forgotten her identity, and so then our new identity now is the church exists to survive,
yeah,
and the priest then is seen not as an empowerer, but someone who maintains the status quo. And then for the laity, then they subconsciously pick up that same message. Then that, oh, okay, then if I want to participate in the mission of the church, which is to survive, then I got to be part of the people who are in the church. Now, it's important to have readers and lectors and
yeah, yeah,
sacristans,
yeah, yeah, of course.
keeping all those things and maintaining those things, but it's for the purpose of evangelization. And so I think I think the laity has sought roles within the church because the church has forgotten her identity.
On that note of maintaining or just helping the church survive, um, I think people are beginning to realize that there's going to be an existential crisis in Catholic education as fewer and fewer parents are getting baptized. So they're sending the kids, but they're relying on the baptism of their parents to allow the kids into school. And then the next generation of kids aren't going to be, there's going to be a lot of grandparents who aren't baptized either. And then they're not going to be eligible for Catholic school. And I think it's going to be a population crunch.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the schools, and so I feel like I'm not worried so much about whether kids are going to start coming to Catholic school. I'm more worried about, like you said, those whether those teachers are going to be coming are going to be Catholic enough to teach the Catholic faith. I think that's the one of the biggest challenges right now. I think there's so much immigration, particularly in Canada at least, right? That there's going to be lots of Catholic kids coming to school, and I think even from non-Catholic families and secular families that they Catholic schools are seen with a higher light. So I mean, maybe in 50 years, I think that could be an issue, but I think the issue right now is like, okay, do we have enough? Because we're so big, do we have enough teachers who are of the faith, that are truly of the faith, that
Yeah,
the
who are
bigger
living
issue,
the faith.
as you know, being
Yeah,
a teacher in the
yeah.
schools.
Okay, that was, I said 20 minutes, so that's good. I appreciate your time, your input. It was good to talk to you, and I've always enjoyed talking with you over the last few years. And thank you very much.
Yeah, where are you doing your master's?
Catholic Distance University, it's down in the States.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
it's all online and easy to do it all online. Just there's not much around here,
No.
that's available, even human.
Yeah. Yeah. So then you have to present this video to other people, or
Yeah,
other
yeah.
people have to.
So it becomes part of a discussion format where people
Mm,
have to respond to the different videos that people, and I guess the prof is trying to get us to get out and talk to people and make connections through these interviews.
yeah.
It's a little underhanded of him in a good way because he's trying to push people into out of the comfort zone and
Yeah.
start asking some of those questions in society.
Hmm. Hmm.
So thank you for saying yes.
Problem. Yeah, hopefully it goes well, and God bless.
Thanks, fella. Appreciate it. Just going to turn the
Problem.
recording off. Oops.